but it's also an attack on the members of Congress, our ability to get our message out. And I know in our office we're getting deluged by phone calls and emails of people that are upset that Newsmax is being shut down. It's been a reliable source of information to millions of people.
That was Mary Miller, crying her big old baby tears over the news that Directv has dropped right-wing propaganda network Newsmax. Directv parted ways with Newsmax after the network demanded a higher selling price, something that would have raised the cost of Directv for consumers. Suddenly, Republicans have a lot of thoughts on the free market.
What this country is about is freedom of ideas, freedom of vision, freedom of discussion, freedom of speech. And I would be angry if they were strictly doing that to a liberal group of people, or a liberal, magazine, or a liberal newspaper, or anybody that represented one side or the other. The point is, we should be able to have our viewpoints, and they should be able to be expressed. In this particular case, it's real obvious something's wrong.
Congressman Van Drew is right. Something is wrong. Republicans seem to have forgotten that the government can't force a company to buy a product it doesn't want. But when Republicans are telling our teachers what to teach and our librarians what books they can provide, is it any surprise they want to tell a television carrier what networks they have to carry?
There are stations that are on Directv that don't, bring in the dollars or bring in the viewers, yet they're okay, and they're going to leave them on. It's obvious they want to remove conservative voices wherever they can, whenever they can. And quite frankly, I think this really deserves an investigation in Congress. I think that we should look into this. There should be hearings, because we're not going to have any conservative voices left, because they're doing everything they can to stop them.
If Jeff Van Drew wants to make business decisions for Directv, he should retire from Congress and go get a job making programming decisions for Directv. And let's get one thing straight. Fox News is the highest rated and most watched cable network in the world. Let's not pretend the far right won't have a voice if Newsmax isn't on Directv. But it isn't enough for the right to complain about Newsmax getting a deserved smack on the nose. Now House Republicans want to use the power of the federal government to investigate Directv for making an everyday business decision. Good thing Kevin McCarthy just created a committee to study the weaponization of government. They can start by studying themselves. For what it's worth, Directv has said it will replace Newsmax with The First, another conservative network. So the total number of conservative stations will remain the same. But that's not enough for Republicans, including the CEO of Newsmax, who joined with former President Donald Trump to call a boycott of AT&T and Directv.
It's a very clear example of political discrimination. That's why we're fighting back. President Trump has called for a boycott of AT&T and Directv. Even if you're not a subscriber of Directv, he says cancel your cell phones. Don Jr., as you know, just put out a tweet.
We can put that up on the screen, yeah. Right there.
So he's telling people to drop Directv and AT&T.
Cancel your cell phones. Throw your TVs out the window. Donald Trump Jr. says it'll help own the libs. Though Republicans aren't so quick to explain how this boycott will work when all their other boycotts have failed. You know, the ones against Disney, Nike, Keurig, Amazon, the New York Times, NASCAR, the NBA, the NFL, Hamilton, Star Wars, Ben & Jerry's. I'll stop there. Even Senator Rand Paul, who once criticized boycotts as being an un-American tactic used by Antifa, called on his supporters to boycott Directv and go elsewhere. But it isn't exactly clear where all those Republicans should go. No other cable provider wants to pay Newsmax's ridiculous fee demands either. Though at least DirecTV's decision has forced Republicans like Donald Trump to admit something they'd rather keep quiet. The modern GOP can't function unless it controls large portions of the American media. Because when journalists actually question Republican ideas, those ideas tend to fall apart. Trump said as much in a post to Truth Social, where he called DirecTV's decision a big blow to the Republican Party. Not to Newsmax, you see, but the Republican Party, which Trump views as one and the same. And there's good reason for Trump to think that. Newsmax has provided some of the most unquestioning coverage of the far right of any media network. Now, some viewers are going to go into withdrawals without their fix.
Democrats and their allies in the business community, they hate free speech. They want a monopoly on their speech, not on free speech for all Americans. And to the extent AT&T and Directv or anybody else is worried about disinformation, hello, have they ever turned into MSNBC and Joyless Reed, who dishes out propaganda every single day?
You heard that right. Democrats and their allies in big business. You know, those famously progressive multinational corporations and their love affair with Bernie Sanders? And it's funny that Tom Borelli mentions misinformation, because if you remember, Newsmax was forced to apologize for pushing disinformation about voting machine company Dominion after Dominion sued them in 2020. Republican talking points can't survive in an actual free market of ideas. In order to work their magic, Republicans can only share their bizarre ideas with other Republicans who are willing to suspend disbelief so it all makes sense. That isn't free speech. It's political theater designed to deceive, and Newsmax is one of the most accomplished purveyors of that kind of far-right propaganda. Newsmax is facing the free market and discovering it doesn't actually like capitalism all that much. That's bad enough. But the GOP's willingness to use the power of Congress to enforce an anti-democratic and anti-capitalist vision of forced speech ought to terrify everyone. If the right doesn't like capitalism, they're welcome to leave. If you made it to the end, thanks so much for watching. Please leave a like and consider subscribing. And leave a comment below so you can let me know what I should cover next.